Hey, 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 Dr.Minesha here. Super excited to be able to do these peace driven leader insights with you all. Listen, there's no amount of words that can describe the feeling that I feel as I reflect back on the conversations I've had with some of the most dynamic leaders that exist today. And the reason why these conversations really mean a lot to me is because it's refreshing to be able to hear from leaders who are living real lives and who are not afraid of sharing the truth about what it really looks like to love, live, and lead in the 21st century as a mom, as a wife, as a business owner, as a corporate professional who's leading other leaders, paying other people's payroll a lot of times, just being able to have a sacred space to be human. Can I get an amen? We are human too. And sometimes it feels that people see us as superhumans, and that leaves us very little room for us to be able to, find our rhythm and to get grounded and to have humanistic moments where we too are looking for clarity. We too are looking to get a restart and a refresh and a reframe so that we can live and lead better. Right. And so if you found this podcast, you're in the right place. What we're doing is Peace Driven Leader Insights. It's a 15-minute or less, just snippet of what I received, nuggets and downloads that I received from the previous podcast. This particular one is on Akary Busto. Akary really emphasized how passionate she is about her work around not just energy, but healing, and not from just a therapeutic standpoint, but from a holistic standpoint. She really talked about the importance of getting your rhythm. And I love that. That's my word. And one of the things that she said was that leadership is non-linear, right? And it isn't a flaw if you have different facets to you because we're multidimensional beings, right? And so we talked about the human design. If you're not familiar with that work, I definitely encourage you to do your research around human design. It's a pretty cool gifting that many specialize in that help leaders identify what their natural nature is so that they are in alignment, right? So me, I know that I'm a manifesting generator. And so when you understand that, you know that I tend to create new things. So if I see there's a gap, I want to create it. Oftentimes I'll skip steps in the status quo so that I can get to a new way of doing something. Right. And once I find that new way, I go back and I share it. Right. And so because I'm skipping steps, there's a lot of trial and error in my nature. And that trial and error sometimes can feel very unsettling depending on the type of person who's following you. And that's why I've found the human design work to be extremely instrumental when it comes to leadership, because the more you understand yourself, then of course you have the opportunity to be that much more effective because you're that much more aware and how you're wired. I think one of the biggest blind spots that we have sometimes as leaders is that it's easy for us to think inside of our own brain. So we're like, I wonder why they did that. Or when I said that, they got all of this, like what, how did you get that from that? I'm sure you all can relate. If you are leading anybody, even yourself, sometimes we have these different perspectives and these viewpoints. And it's because our brain is processing differently. And the more we can embrace that truth, the more we can stop trying to push people into this straight line, right? And instead embrace a new way of approaching a thing, of mission, of vision, right? And so one of the things we talked about as well is triggers. Triggers are invitations to heal, not evidence that you're failing at something. I love the way Akary says that. She said that she realized in her own growth journey that her partner, her husband, was actually triggering her mother wound. And the more she began to do her work and she heals with him, the less her mother triggers her. Her actual mother triggers her. So I thought that was really cool because I personally have experienced the same thing where different personalities. So the insight that I really wanted to lean in on is that relationships isn't just hard. It may be assigned to a complete lesson so your nervous system can finally exhale So look at the people that you have in your life. I always ask to look at the 5 people first. Create that circle around you, your top 5 people who really has the most influence over you. That's going to be really key. And really think about this reoccurring trigger that happens. And it could be a trigger to cause you to overshare, forgive, over, whatever it is for you. Like, and if you don't, this exercise is going to help you to become more aware for sure. Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to repeat the class, right? And so, in order for us to do that, we want to be able to lean in and allow these triggers to be invitation to our healing. Now, another thing that we talked about, or Kari talked about, was the um, clarity. It requires cultural courage. And I really love this because her and I, we share this broader viewpoint on diversity and inclusion and humanity, more so, because I feel like diversity and inclusion just sounds like a buzzword. But when you're talking about humanity, what it does is it really allows you to look at people and understand that they have more similarities than they have differences, right? And so Akari just happens to be an immigrant, and so she understood the tension around immigration. She is, I want to say, Asian descent. I don't want to get it wrong, but look at the podcast because she actually breaks down all of the different cultures that she has and how that made her more open and not being ashamed or too mainstream or too culture, living under two sets of rules. Because her Asian family, her mom background really valued education, and you're going to find yourself and you're going to be successful, and this is the path that you're going to take, right? She learned that that was like a very rigid approach that her mother had. And a lot of it was because of culture. And when you understand that, it allows you to reevaluate just the rules that we play in our head. And what it does is we talked about how we take these rules from our past and we use these rules to make up like our principles and our standards and our values. And they don't change. We continue to get older, but those old values and standards are still there. And I equated it to being like an old phone that needs updating, right? And we have these outdated beliefs and we create these modern dysfunctions based off of old ways of thinking. And so I thought that was really powerful how she shared that. Another thing too that came up was that you cannot let your mindset, what did she say? Hold on, let me see how she said it. If your body isn't nourished, affirmations and meditations won't land the same. That's what it was. She looks at burnout through symptoms, blood work, nutrition, nervous system, right? All of those things are integrated with her work. And the idea from a peace-driven leader standpoint, you all already know if you've been following me for some time, that is a core belief of mine because first of all, leadership is your number one asset, right? And so when you take leadership, you have to understand that it's bigger than just your ability to influence people. It is the 8 domains of leadership. And if you haven't heard of that, you definitely want to download the app. I Lead, We Rise. It breaks down all 8 domains of leadership. Follow the content. Other videos, I really break this down. But this is the whole key that leadership is an integrative practice. It's not just a one size fit all. Okay. So she was basically saying you're not just tired because you're lacking sleep. You may be depleted because your vessel is over, whether it be decision fatigue, whether it be, your boundaries are all out of whack. You're not organized or you're spending more time looking for things. You don't have sustainable systems in place, so these things all affect your leadership and how your ability to be able to show up, right? We talked about brain rewiring and how peace becomes sustainable and not performative when you really prioritize this type of integration. And then last but certainly not least is micro shifts. This beats grand overhauls. Sometimes we think in this big picture way, but actuality, one of the things Akari said is just being practical. And one of the things that actually shifted me was when she talked about the importance of protein in a leader's diet and making sure that we're intentional about that. And it doesn't have to be all this expensive and elaborate. We can literally get one of those silk dairy-free yogurts. It has a great amount of protein in it for a meal, and, a high-fat nut, and allow ourselves to have like these practices where we're eating the same thing that we know what is given our bodies. And the blood work actually tells you as well what you're deficient in and what your body is needing. And so you can use that and integrate that with your meal plan. And she talked about how important that was, and how it reduces decision fatigue by just repeating easy staples. Listen, you will see that I will wear the same shirt on these podcasts. That's not intentional. Okay. Sometimes I may switch up the color, but it is a uniform, and I intentionally wear a uniform because it is one less decision that I have to make, right? What is your system? What can you put in place? Because at the end of the day, you have to remember, an exhausted leader doesn't need a 90-day overhaul first. What you need is a same-day rescue plan. Because peace, it begins when you stop abandoning your body during the day and start treating it like a temple that it is, and that it is. You know it is from a head standpoint, but your body is craving more of your attention. So let this particular episode be a wake-up call